and brave, I walked alone in the silence, fated with power to reign into the night. Behind the storm, I'll hide away. Dark forest paths, my lonely grave. The world of lies I left aside, and grace I found.
Divina. That's an awesome band that most people don't know about. Amazing band. Check them out. It's definitely worth a listen to. Aliens and UFOs in the Loosh farm. Do, 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 do. So, anyways, going to be listening to Mark and Dan over there at Forever Conscious Research Channel. And they did an interesting show the other night on UFOs. And we're going to listen to it, and then I'm going to comment about it and see what other people have to say about it. This is a pretty interesting take for me. These guys are my age, old men. Old man, take a look at my life. You smell. I got a feeling Jay Knight is my son. Thanks. Please stop the trolling, okay? If not, I'll have to block my own son. Oh my gosh. That's going to be pathetic, isn't it? Block your own son. Anyways, so this interesting video they did. And the take on they have about their experiences with UFOs. Your son on the spectrum. Yeah, I guess we're off a bit autistic, huh? Well, if this is one way to get communicating, maybe this is the way we need to start talking, my son, since we don't talk that much to each other. We spend all day with each other, right? Maybe this is how we'll talk. You just troll me. How's that? Anyways, this is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. And if the AI did that, this AI did it. I just took a couple pictures. I put in aliens, UFOs, and one of the AI generators and made that. So, woohoo. Son on the spectrum. This cat gets no break. No way, no how. Not even from his own son. So, I tell you, the last show we did, jeez, towards the end of it, that was a disaster. I did with JT. It's like, jeez. Anyways, I don't want to be part of the cult. And, there's a lot of hucksters and a lot of charlatans and guys and gals that want to make a name for themselves through, of all things, Bigfoot. And they'll say anything. They'll agree to anything. They'll do anything. And then they also will have their hidden agendas where they think that because they're pastors and they're priests, or they're pastors, and they're like, Christians, that somehow they got it all figured out, when I know for a fact they don't got it figured out. And that sounds pretty arrogant, but I spent an awful lot of time studying it and believing in it in order to find out none of it's real. But with this stuff, man, this should be interesting. It's interesting. Dan talks about some of his sightings. I myself have had 3 sightings. My last one that I had was last year, February of last year, the 11th, I believe it was. And if that's the night, and I know the night, it was a Sunday night. It was before the show I did with Texas from Porch, and I interviewed him. And sure enough, there was something in the sky as I was looking out my kitchen window. It was pretty damn bizarre. But but they have their own take of things, their own experiences. And I think we look into this, might ask them some questions. Why are these things happening? Are they just people's imaginations? What is bro inquiring about? I don't know. Jeez almighty. No breaks. No breaks at all. Actually, I'll leave him in there. What the hell? It's fun. What the heck? What is bro inquiring about? As he laughs with his tears. So we're going to be checking this out. So plane equal UFO. Plane equal UFO. So anyways, let's get into this. We'll watch 10 minutes, take a break, make some comments, and we'll go from there. By the way, the band that I played in the beginning there was Diviner. They're a really good band. You should check them out. Got nothing associated with them, but except I like their music. Let's see. Here we go.
Okay, so I have not really covered UFOs in any great detail on my channel in all the videos I've made because I've been more focused on the afterlife, reincarnation, etc. But there is a tie-in to the UFO phenomena with all this. I would say that UFOs, and I think you're the same way, Mark, from what you've told me, as probably the thing that I have researched the most in my entire life, because I think I started when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
It's crazy. Like we're very close with when we started. Yeah.
I was always fascinated by it. As soon as I learned about it, and of course, back then it was always like they're aliens from their planet, and it was a very simplified view of things. I went to the public library. This was pre-internet days, and I would take out every book I could, or if I was in a bookstore, I don't know if you remember Walden Books at the mall. Usually Walden Books, I would search for books on UFOs. I used to have quite a number of them. A lot of them came from the library. But I have to also say, as it was the longest thing I've ever researched, I still don't have any solid, like, I talk about when I talk about the afterlife, the astral plane, the reincarnation system, there's a lot of evidence and witness statements from near-death experiencers, out-of-body experiencers, where you can piece together the whole system, how it works, and it's kind of like much easier to figure out what is going on between our temporary mortal existence here in our human avatars, and then after we pass on, and what goes on in the astral plane. It's much easier to figure that out than the UFO phenomena.
Yeah, I think the big reason for that is that it's just been littered with endless disinfo, and we're talking about, what are we going on? Almost like we're getting damn near like 90, 100 years, something like that. I mean, we're getting close.
Sure, and I think in different interpretations of the same phenomena went on before that, before technology. They were, possibly interpreted as other things like spirit beings or fae or demons, etc.
Yeah, and goblins and all that stuff. Yeah,
jinn. Goblins. Yep, jinn, all that stuff. Now, I have to say that one of the things that I benefit from my research into, the meaning of life, reincarnation, the afterlife, was that I was able to work myself out of being in all these little boxes. Like, everybody's like, so many people, not everybody, but so many people out there are either in some religious or spiritual box that can be debunked by the totality of information, or they're in some materialist box where, and it seems like that's all that they choose between, is like some form of one of these mainstream religions or some kind of new age concoction or materialist atheism. That seems to be a few kind of core elements of what people fall into. But I learned pretty quickly that if you think outside those boxes, you can see more. One of the reasons that I named my whole thing Overwatch is because you can see a lot from an Overwatch position than you can if you're in the middle of something. And one of the things with UFO phenomena is that nowadays I see it as that it's different. It can be different things, and a lot of people with their theories have latched onto partial truth of one of them. So, for example, some of these are clearly government creations, military technology. Then you have the ones that may be connected to the astral plane, which is the ones I want to focus on. And then you have possibly beings from unknown origin. You know, if you want to, some people want to say they come from other planets, different worlds, a different realm. However you want to, you know, fix that the alien theory. So that's where I see there's probably 3 different phenomena going on, and these things are not. They kind of crisscross each other, but they're not the same thing. What do you think about that, Mark?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think that, not that I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, because we had an interesting discussion about this on the phone. But I tend to think that these are beings that are they're embedded into the system, and kind of like what we were talking about. I'm more along the lines of Jacques Vallée's interpretation. If I had to, if you had to stick a gun to my head and say, "Hey, pick something that will closely relate with," that would be it. Now, that doesn't mean that he's completely I'm completely in everything he says, or a lot of things. I mean, but the majority of his interpretation of what the phenomenon is more along the lines of what I'm thinking. I think you have beings who are embedded into the system. They have the capability of coming in and out of our visual spectrum, and they're able to manifest themselves in front of us, or they're able to manifest themselves in front of others and play their games. And sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're deceiver, trickster, manipulators. They play all sides of the fence. And I'm talking about in general, because it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, how you have the fae, the jinn, the goblins, and how there are, like, the modern day abduction account lines up with the lore of experiencers in the past, like, to a T, like, very, very, like, spot on. And so I don't think that can be ignored. I think it's likely part of the control system, part of the deception system, for whatever reason it may be, whether it's to, have things go a certain way in this realm, to have certain direction go, have humanity go in a certain direction. I don't know, but that's my guess on it. All I do know is that there's, like, a correlation there, and that they are able to come in and out of our reality, and even replicate sometimes, like, they look full-fledged human, kind of like what we see in after-death communication, or even, like, the people have, see grandma or mom or dad in the living room while they're sitting down, And sometimes they'll say, oh, like sometimes they'll freely admit that they look like a hologram. And then other times they'll say they look completely physical. Now, of course, that's up for interpretation. Who knows? You know, everyone's perception's different. And, you know, if you're in the grieving process, perhaps you're not going to pay as much attention to detail in those moments. But, you know, I'm kind of trailing off a little bit here, but, you know, like,
I got you.
Yeah. So,
yeah. So one of my theories, which I talked to you about earlier, is that one of these phenomena are related to these beings that are in the astral plane that project themselves as authorities or as spiritual, some kind of spiritual identifies like a religious figure, or they're the ones that out-of-body experiencers talk about, like Monroe, where you have like the entry director and the people.
Right. There's a lot to talk about right there. It was amazing as I figured out most of this stuff on my own too, and then I find a couple of dudes that figure this out as well. Wow. It just makes me wonder why no one else, how so few people, I should say, do so. Let's see, is my stun still going at it? What is that network clocking on about? Jeez. Anyways, yeah. So let's look at some of the things that they talked about there. Dan, his YouTube channel is called OverWatch, the OverWatch Channel. So, and interesting perspective there, and I agree with them. I always say it's really bad to be in the group. There's a lot of negative connotations that come from being enmeshed in the group. Groupthink is really a bad thing for if you're and want the truth. If you're going after the truth, because groupthink, I mean, it's amazing how it influences people. It's amazing how some will turn in a dime in the company of someone else. I see it constantly. I witnessed it the other night, actually. Anyways, so Overwatch, instead of being in the midst of all this stuff, be in the fringe, be above, watch over it, watch what everyone's doing, and then gather the information. Instead of just, I'm going to be in this group or that group, or I'm going to be in that camp or that camp, whatever. You see this happening in religion, you see it in social movements, and you see it happening in all these other like cultish-like movements, right? And the truth of the matter is, Bigfootery is one hell of a cult. And so is ufology, and it's also turning to be the same, but not as bad, not in the paranormal. Also, it talks about this the way this matrix is laid out. It generally, most people get snared in the very base level of information, and either they end up becoming part of the materialist group, or you end up being in some kind of cult again, a religion, some kind of group, right? You get yourself boxed into this stuff, right? It happened to me when I was involved in Christianity, or actually involved in, growing up as Mormon. That was a box. And then later on this past decade, me really focusing on Jesus and the Bible and thinking that was all there was. That put me in a box. And it wasn't until I challenged that stuff and deconstructed and broke free from that I realized, man, I really put myself in a box, didn't I? And so, but what he's saying here is, when they say materialist, the atheist type perspective, you either have to believe in a God or you don't. And that's the end of it right there, right? But the problem is there's things going on around us, and those of us who have had encounters and experiences, and we know that to be the case, and regardless of whether you believe in a God or not. So we call it the spirit realm, we call it the interdimensional beings, whatever. They're just labels. The fact of the matter is we're dealing with something that most people do not understand at all. And we fall into these traps, right? Aliens have to look just one way, the way that they're constantly being promoted in the mainstream media, and then most of the people on the internet, they just go along with it. They just parrot it. Who's to say the image that I just am showing you here now, that's not what the real alien looks like? Or are we dealing with aliens altogether? Are we dealing with some kind of other beings, shape-shifting beings, other kind of ghostly-like beings? There's a lot to ask. But I just warn people that there's a good chance that it's just like religion, it's just like everything else. Anything that you inquire about, there's going to be a landmine field, of endless twists and turns and dead ends and or rabbit holes, and it will lead you nowhere. And you have to be willing to admit when you're being led nowhere, which most people, for some reason, do not want to do. See what other new harassment is going on. I need to focus on this. So we're going to put you in timeout. And we're going to do that. And sorry about this. I hate to do that to you, my son, but you're pushing it too far, okay? All right. I don't want to. It's funny at first, but you overkill it, bro. Anyways, so back to this whole thing. So, I mean, it's fun. It's the funniest thing. My number one troll is my son. It's amazing. And then there's a couple other douchebags that show up. But for the most part, it's my son. My son's not a douchebag, though. My son is just being silly. But there's a lot of, douchebags are the dudes that are like adults and doing that. That's pathetic when you're an adult trolling people, and you got some real issues in my book. Talked about Jacques Vallée and his approach to things too, and how this discovery of what this really going on around us. What's really going on around us is going to threaten a lot of the structures, a lot of the institutions, and they are threatening it, right? When people start to realize that the priest doesn't know what he's talking about, the Pope doesn't know what he's talking about, the pastor doesn't know what he's talking about, the people, the imam doesn't know what he's talking about, the rabbi doesn't know what he's talking about, and not only that, then the scientist doesn't really know what he's talking about when it comes to this kind of stuff. Just bits and pieces of it. But no one has the answer. No one has the full answer what we're dealing with when it comes to these things that we call aliens and other things we call UFOs. And it's a reflection, if you will, of this matrix that we live in, right? A whole bunch of questions, never-ending questions, with no real answers. They talked about these things, whether UFOs or aliens. And we can also say, because the behavior is exactly the same when people say they're seeing Bigfoot, which so far my observation has been, and all the people that I've been talking to, they're calling everything frickin' Bigfoot, when there's no way no honest person can possibly say that what they're filming is a Bigfoot. I mean, you have to be either incredibly delusional or incredibly dishonest. And there's a lot of dishonest people in the Bigfoot community, I discovered. I don't even know if they really realize it. Maybe they're just misinformed. Maybe they're delusional. Maybe they have other motives. But there's something seriously wrong with them. Because just because you film a shadowy figure doesn't mean it's a Bigfoot. And just because you film something with a couple eyes and all doesn't mean it's Bigfoot. And just because you film eye shine doesn't mean it's Bigfoot. And of course, to compensate for the fact that they're most likely not filming a Bigfoot, they have to make up stuff like holograms, right? Cloaking. And then of course, then there's the chosen ones. And you find this across the board. It doesn't matter if it's the Bigfoot community, it's the ufology. There's even those that pretend to be in the paranormal. It's the same shit that I see in all the other cults, whether religious or not. And that is the chosen ones. They are the ones that get the chance to communicate with these beings, right? Mind speak. They're the ones. And when you listen to what they share with them, you're like, none of that's very original. I think I've heard that like 1,000 times, 1,000 before, from that as many different people. And of course, they're chosen also to do amazing things, like they're going to save the world, or they got a special mission. And it seems that most of the time that special mission is to make us more confused than ever about what the reality of this place is and what the hell's really going on, right? And it's just really more designed to be more divisive and combative about the whole thing. But these things seem to have either they are forced to make it happen, where they pierce, as some people say, the veil, or they the spectrum, if you will. Somehow they show up for brief periods of time, whereas UFO, aliens, Bigfoot, whatever, and then they just disappear. Like they're there one moment and gone the next. Now, are they given license or permission to do it? Are they being forced to do it? I got a feeling that they might be being forced to do it as well, right? Because the controllers, if you will, the archonic forces around us, these entities that have a more authority, seem to use these other entities, whether aliens or Bigfoot or dogmen or these cryptids or all these things, it's ghosts and everything. A lot of times they're there. It seems to me to be more of a distraction than teach anything. And if there's anything to be learned about it, is how gullible we all are, literally. And not only do we deceive each other, but these things seem not to have too much of a problem deceiving us as well. Now, this is if you put yourself in the box and you say, well, they're all demons. Are they all demons? Yeah, that's what my church told me. Well, your church has also been telling you that Jesus is going to come back tomorrow, next year. By the way, it's just a special date this month coming up. Or is it April? Is that what it is? The 8th? And then I guess it's something to do with the eclipse. And then now they're pushing it back to the 10th. And someone's even pushing it back now to the 24th. And they'll keep pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. Now that's something to think about. Right? These people have been told that they are the chosen ones too, right? The chosen ones of God. And by the way, there's all sorts of UFO cults out there that believe the same damn thing. They were chosen by these entities to be bearers of great truth and a message of truth and love. And you'll see that same New Age nonsense going on in the Bigfoot community. And it's amazing the stuff that you have to go through. I mean, and there's research and stuff. You got to swallow a lot of frickin' crow. And you have to put up a lot of BS. And one of the things I've noticed over and over again is that the demanding of these images that they film, whether it was the last show I did with JT, with what our last guest was, where he was insisting that they're a dogman or a Bigfoot, and I'm looking at it and I go, I see a lot of other heads, but I don't see a dogman or a Bigfoot. But he swears to God, and then JT goes along with it. He does it every single time. And I'm like, either you're blind or you're being dishonest. I don't know, one of the two. Maybe it's this whole thing. But it's not just DT, it's everybody. Everybody does this. They feel like they can't question it. They can't say, no, I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing what you're seeing. No, it's not true. Or, because that's the guests that we've had in the past, like Brian, his stuff, he's insisting it's a Bigfoot. I'm looking at it and go, there ain't no fucking Bigfoot in a million years there's a Bigfoot. But he swears to God, and you got to see it. Now, for a long time, I've been playing the game saying no one can see it. People don't all see the same thing, and this is true. But you know what? When you really come down to it, if you're really seeing a Bigfoot, it's going to look like a fucking Bigfoot, whatever that means. It's just not going to be a shadowy being, you know what I mean, or an entity. And if it's an alien, it's going to look like an alien, I guess. But the problem is, in all this thing, is that these shape-shifting stuff and the trickster spirits is involved. So one moment it looks like a Bigfoot, an alien, a dogman, and the next thing is not. One thing I do notice, there's an awful lot of entities involved, like parasitic type entities, and humans as well. There's these hooded beings too that I'm filming. So, what are these things, and how are they able to be able to come into our spectrum, our visible spectrum, for short, brief times, and then they seem to be forced to leave. The combination of possibilities is ridiculous. Maybe they'll come home with you. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll torment you. Maybe they'll love bomb you and feel like you're finally met the people that you belong to. You know what I mean? You're something that's love is good. You know what I mean? And we are so easily deceived. But this system, this matrix that we live in, is very much deceptive and very controlling. It's very manipulative, isn't it? It really plays on our emotions and our stress and everything about our existence, whether we live like primitives, in somewhere in frickin' Indonesia, or here running around as we do now. We think that we're not as primitive as they are. Outside of plumbing, some medicine, hygiene, and that we, but we're just as controlled as they are. And my impression is, even if you were living in a more indigenous existence, more, like our ancestors, I think they were just as much enslaved as we are. The only difference is that you and I have some conveniences, some comforts. We're allowed to live a little bit longer. And somehow this system feeds on our emotions and our thought patterns in a different way now. And then the physical thing. So this interesting about this. Also, they realize too that when you go on the other side, whether near-death experiences or the astral plane, and all these different. You just go to the other side, the spirit realm, whatever the hell it is, and it's like, well, there's a good chance you're going to end up seeing something that you were anticipating, that you wanted to see. So if you're obsessed about Jesus, you're going to see, and you've got it in your head that what Jesus actually looks like, there will be something that's pretending to be Jesus or Allah or, some other, Moses or your grandma or, Donald Trump. Who the hell knows what you're obsessing about? And then you know what I mean? A dad, a mom, you never got the love from your siblings or your dad or mom here, nor could you give it back to them, by the way. It goes both ways, right? And so, you have this, then you go to the other side and there's something which is like mommy and daddy, and they're like, oh, we love you. And they get this great feeling, and you're like, wow. And they said, but there's one problem. You got to go back. You got a special message. You got a mission. You got to tell the world. Well, if everything around here is just a total clusterfuck, and everything's the law of inversion is everywhere, and even when you, it's even worse than that. The problem is wherever you turn to search for the truth. I mean, outside of some mathematics and some the scientific method and a few other things. I mean, industrial processes, mechanical engineering. Everything else is up for frickin' grabs. This is disturbing, man. I just came across. It's blocking me. Hi, I just came across your account, and I have to say I'm very interested. Good. Thanks, Eric, John Eric. I like that name, John Eric. Let's see what else you got to say. I like your content. It's really unique. You deserve way more recognition than you have right now. Oh, thanks. I just hope you're not asking me for money because I don't have it. I've heard that before with numerous times. It said, "Yeah, man, if you send me your email, I'll hook you up." So, but no, I'm censored, dude. 2020, 2021, I decided to follow my sword, and I was every single day posting stuff and warning people about the eugenics program that was going on. And so they nuked my old channel on the January the 6th, 2021, along with others, and then they've censored me ever since. And plus, I'm researching stuff that's not really popular to the vast majority of people, especially in the truther movement, like researching Bigfoot. Oh, that's a joke. Until you see something that looks like Bigfoot, like I have. And then you're like, what the hell? All right, there's something going on, but what is it? Because it certainly doesn't line up with what all the talking heads in the Bigfoot community say. And then I start seeing other things that look like freaking UFOs, and etc. And then I'm like, well, what the hell is really going on? And then I discover that I should probably show myself a little bit. I discovered that actually nobody, I mean, literally everybody that I've listened to is speculating, guessing, and they're much more articulate, and they're much more intelligent than I am. And yet they're like saying, John Eric, DAD. Okay. All right, Dad. All right. So, I'm cold. Do you believe in Bigfoot? I don't believe in Bigfoot. You're looking at images right there of what I filmed. If you take a pretty good look at them, and I know it's not the greatest of resolution, but I don't believe in them. These things are, whatever they call and claim to be Bigfoot is real. What I don't believe in is the official narrative and what has been trying to push on us as this cottage industry, this psyop. It's called Bigfootery has been pushed on us. I don't think Bigfoot is what anybody says. See, I'm not. So if I tell you it's like they're interdimensional beings or ultradimensional beings, then also it's a woo. But what I'm going to try to say is that these are things that are just like these UFOs. They're just like these aliens that somehow pop into our reality, at times look like a hologram, and other times look like flesh and blood, and they leave evidence. But that's all we got. It's across the board. It can be ufology. It could be Bigfootery. I got a feeling that's my son saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm drawing." Hold on a second. Hello. How many accounts do you have? How many accounts do you have? Please stop trolling me. it's okay to have a little bit of fun, but I'm trying to focus on what I'm doing. Right? So, good night, Chase. I love you. Love you. Yeah, it's my son. John Eric is my son as well. I've made a new account. And that's my son laughing at me. And that's the way it is, though. I mean, I totally think this is, I think it's all meant to be this way. I honestly, the script is written, man. Shit. The closer you get to the truth, the more just the pain and that comes along with it. Anyways, I love my sons. So where is about this? So these things, whatever these things, what they call them, Bigfoot, or they call aliens or spirits and all that, they seem to manifest and appear in the same manner and fashion. They just look a little different. They're presented a little different. So I'm in the camp with those who realize there's just something much more deceptive and sinister going on. I don't see any evidence of aliens from another, somewhere else in some other galaxy that's showing up in mechanical, clunky stuff. And then I feel this stuff, this Bigfoot and coming out of UFOs and all that kind of stuff. All right, UFOs. Demonic. I don't know. I think there are. There's entities that have bad intent, and then other times they love bomb the hell out of people, and many times they're just neutral. The question is, when you start really stepping back a little, because I've had these experiences, right? And it's like, first I asked the question of what are they trying to teach me, if they're trying to teach me anything, or what is there to learn from all this? And one thing is the inconsistency. You know what I mean? You think there's like some kind of, evil entities or beings or demons or whatever. And the next thing they're like, you're our space brothers, right? And the problem is, I don't think these are any of that. I honestly, so it's a mixed bag. You can't nail it down to one thing, right? But a big part of it is this like trickster spirit thing that's going that's all around this place, right? And which they're pretty much messing with us. They're pretty much messing with us. So yeah, let's listen to some more stuff. I think it's gonna be a great conversation. Hopefully by the end, it makes other people think, what is it that we're really dealing with? Should we be so blindly following all these other people with their YouTube channels and all that other stuff in there? Either, the groups and their constant pushing, which clearly is self-promotion is what it is. It's to make them look like there's something that they're not. And I see this across the board in all with this ufology, Bigfooters, even a lot of the people that claim to be paranormal researchers. I mean, I think the closest thing that I've seen legitimately, possibly, the closest thing to me that I've met yet, that of a group of guys that are really trying to do this, would be cameraman and the crew and MT Mike. Somehow if we fell into, if we discovered each other, but I look at them, they're constantly going out, they're actually doing research, they're going to locations, they're using different devices, and they're trying to find things. Now, and I also think they're getting closer to the truth than people want to hear, because when it comes to these things called Bigfoot and Dogma and all that, I mean, we're not really, that line between spirits, the spirit realm, interdimensional realm, and something that's around us, that's part of the creation, that's allowed to manifest at times. I think at times even forced to be manifest. You know what I mean? for certain agendas. And I honestly, when you like, the ufology has been around for 90 years, if not longer, and we'll say minimum 80 years. But it was long before the 1940s when they started looking into this stuff. And then Bigfootery is about the same time period. And then the paranormal has been going on forever and a day. And it's just speculation and guesswork and a whole lot of storytelling. Yet people really do have encounters. And it leaves them into a bit of a dilemma. Because, the more you do this stuff, the more you realize, I don't know what's going on, and the dude across from me doesn't really know what's going on. Those YouTubers have to get the bong somewhere, get the bang, the bog. I don't know what you're saying there, bro. But the thing is, we're in a dilemma here. So I honestly think the only way you're going to have any semblance of knowing what the hell's going on is if you go do the research yourself. Can't count on me. You can't count on any of these other YouTube channels. You can't count on all of these people on Facebook and all these guys are making. I mean, I interviewed a guy, and it's very questionable who he is, his character. And how's a guy in 5 years be in 5 documentaries as if all of a sudden he's being Christian, like the expert of what's going on in Louisiana, when there's guys who've been doing it for 50 years who could walk circles around the guy, and he brought up stuff like Matthew Johnson, and he's a horrendous person. He's a really mean person. I mean, if I could do a show just on the stuff that guy, me, and messages that we've gone back and forth with on Facebook, if you knew what a scumbag that guy is, and then that guy somehow now is the expert. Oh, I know why, because he's a Christian. Well, I'm sorry, just because you're a Christian doesn't make you an expert in any of this stuff. In fact, what you are is you're pushing part of the Matrix agenda. This is very clear. Picture-to-picture layout. What the hell is going on with this? Let me get this out of the way because for some reason I cannot see. So anyways, let's get back to these questions here before I get on with this. Bag money, okay. Let's in a way, these are right. Okay, if Bigfoot is real, it's interdimensional. It has, well, I mean, it's the closest thing. It's certainly not flesh and blood. There's no evidence for it. Footprints is all you got. Well, by the way, those footprints can be found out in all sorts of places and different other things. You know what I mean? They've been talking about this stuff in the paranormal research for hundreds of years. So just because you find some footprints doesn't mean anything. And if we realize, look, our ancestors, the Native Americans told us this. They all told us this. Our own ancestors and European ancestors. And we just poo-pooed them and said, yeah, you're idiots. Now, we're much smarter than you. We watched History Channel and Animal Channel. And we might have even went to college and university, right? But the fact of the matter is, whatever this thing is that's called Bigfoot, at times appears, manifests, and anybody who's done any research on this, serious research, will come to the same conclusion. It's not popular. No one wants to hear it, but here's it goes. You know what? So at times it appears like it's physical, but none of us went up there and shook its hand, took a DNA sample from it. You know what I mean? Combed its hair. Petted on his back. None of us have done that. So no matter what you say, you still don't. It's just now a belief system still. So you believe that it's flesh and blood. But that doesn't mean so. At the same, these things, and our ancestors talked about it, coming in and out of the trees, out of the ground, materializing. And so because we can't accept the fact that it's actually doing that, Or you say, oh no, they're actually they're cloaking. So stupid. I mean, literally, it's just people making up shit. The fact of the matter is that we're dealing with something that we don't want to admit is what's going on. And if you haven't had these experiences, the only thing that I can say is you ain't doing it. Because I didn't have to try that hard to have the experiences. And if you think watching videos is going to make you knowledgeable about this shit, good luck. That MF can disappear of nowhere. I'm going to swamp. Okay, man. Cool. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, all sorts of shit, man. It's one of the best places to film. Some of the best images ever filmed of what looks like a Bigfoot is in a swamp. You know what I mean? So, off the coast of Lake Erie. During the day. And just they're manifesting or just appearing or just being, for some reason, our digital cameras can pick it up. Well, of course, it has something to do with the spectrum, right? The electromagnetic spectrum, and our cameras can pick up things, especially these new digital cameras, then our eyes can't. And then vice versa. Then you'll end up seeing something, and the camera will film it. There's so much. I think Bigfoot is everywhere. Because I filmed in the middle of my town. I know people that filmed them in the middle of suburbia, on the farms, and parks. So I mean, and you can dismiss them and say that they didn't happen. And these people, 99% of them never start a YouTube channel, don't want any attention. They just want to know what the hell they experienced and what happened to them. And they have the same experiences. Some look like they're physical. Other times they just appear and disappear. And, you know, you can dismiss it all you want. That's your choice. But those of us who have these encounters and experiences and have researched this, we know that there's something going on that doesn't fit the mold. What's up, Jason? I'm good, man. We're going to start with part 2 of this. And that is, we're listening to this video that Mark did from Forever Conscious Research. We're talking about their encounters or experience with aliens and UFOs. So here we go. Let's see what we're going to do. Let's just get this right.
Or not people, the beings that work inside the system here of this Loosh farm. And I think one of the theories I have, you know, it could be wrong, but is that the beings that keep this system also may want to interact with it for whatever reason inside the physical area. So if the rules of the spirit and astral plane and the physical plane are kind of consistent, you can't do that unless you have a physical body. But the so-called aliens, or these beings, whatever they are, they would need a body. So we, the humans here, are incarnations of consciousness into a body that's designed to hamper us, to remove our memories, to dumb us down as much as possible, to weaken us as much as possible, to make us forget our immortality. So we have this biological programming about life and death and all this bad stuff. But for if you think of the mechanism for incarnation, I think you could easily have a fully adult, perfected body, or one of these grays, or any kind of body you want. It's just an avatar, and then the beings that manipulate this system, that they have a method of incarnating or for lack of a better word, entering one of these avatars, and now they can be in the physical with some kind of super physical technology, and that this technology and these physicalized beings are from the astral plane, and in these so-called ships or whatever, they can interact with the physical earth realm here and do whatever it is that they do here, whether it is to perpetuate some kind of alien or abductions or whatever it is they're doing. And that's one of the phenomena. That's a UFO phenomena. And that's just an idea I had. Part of it comes from a description from one of Robert Monroe's books, where he described a version of Earth where people were able to just enter and exit like perfected human bodies at will. Like they come and experience the physical plane, and then they can leave and come back. And I seem to remember reading something about that in one of his books. Do you remember that, Mark?
You and I think are on the same page with that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was in Far Journeys.
Right. So he mentions this, and it made total sense to me, because I'm like, well, why would you have to enter the physical reality as a baby if it's just a body? I also, before I forget, doing all this, and some of this stuff has been memory hold. I cannot find it online anymore. That I did a couple videos just recently about search engines and how to do better searching on the internet, and I discussed like this whole concept of the dead internet theory and stuff like that. But some of this stuff I remember from like the 90s or the 80s, or in some of these UFO books I would read, or documentaries, or interviews I've seen with people, abduction people. I remember some cases where people described being, taken, and that something would happen to their physical body, and the so-called, alleged aliens or whatever they were, the abducted human's body would become damaged, or even I think I remember cases where they just wanted to demonstrate that it's just a body, you're not your body, and they would destroy the body and then copy it, and then transfer the abductee out of their former body and into a complete copy of themselves in a different body. And that made me think, like, so you don't have to lose your memories, you don't have to go through the whole process here with the hypnagogic state and the brainwashing and all the other stuff, that horrific stuff that goes on when you incarnate here as a human infant, and grow up from there. And that these aliens were demonstrating in some of these abduction cases, which I can't find anymore. I've looked, I can't find them. That they would just, talk about the human body as a container. It's just a container. Yeah. They would mention it as a container. And, just because they're part of the system, just like certain people in here that are, high up on the information media chain, they're part of the system, but you still can get truth from them when they talk, right? So, that's just, it's really crazy. It's a crazy theory, I guess. I don't know how other people feel about it, but that's one aspect of the UFO phenomena that I think that goes on here.
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy at all. I think there's a couple things that go on. Like, they obviously have their minions who are set up and ready to perform ready to act and ready to, designate duties so that things function the way they deem, the way they want them, the way they wanted things done. And I would imagine if something is not up to their specifications, that they will facilitate a meeting or a connection or something, whether that's in a actual physical body or whether it's an actual physical temporary body that's there on standby, or if it's a in the astral form, who knows? But I agree with you. I think it's probably something along those lines, because I really feel that most have no clue what's going on here, and that to have that level of knowledge, you really need to be high up in the food chain. But then there's like the easy route too. Like this certainly can't be discounted. Like just possession alone. They are really good at being able to possess and take over others and hijack bloodlines. So much so that they will easily do the bidding, because they believe in, this, that, if they sacrifice or they perform these rituals or that they will benefit from it. And then kind of once you get a hold on a bloodline or an individual, and then it kind of reverberates down the bloodline, then they're easily controlled, because they don't know any other type of life. They've been kind of brought into that life, and then as their family continues to grow and they learn things, in that they can communicate, they can connect with these beings, whoever they are. But let's just say, for sake of the argument, matrix controllers, they're able to kind of do that too. So how, so I think those are the likely possibilities. And of course, transmuting into a body is, why wouldn't they do it?
Yes, I think they have to in order to be physical. Now there's
and keep control. If they have to really say they have someone at the top of the food chain, Dan, and they're not doling out the duties that they want to their specifications. Well, what would be a better way than to come into a physical body that is jacked up and threaten them and say, hey, get your ass in line. This is what we want done. I mean, could totally see that type of thing happening. Of course, it's all opinion, right? We're just shooting from the hip here, but
yeah, there's so much mashup of information. There's I should let everybody know that, and I may have mentioned this before, I'm not sure, but
so yeah, this section, they bring up some interesting points. First of all, he talks about the dead internet theory, which I've done I mirrored that before and know about it, researched it a while back. And it's clear the internet is nothing like it was 12 years ago, 7 years ago. It's a dismal place now. It really is. Especially when you get to this point and you start talking the way we're talking now. Man, the censorship is terrible. Just on this stuff. And you would think this is insignificant stuff, apparently, but apparently it's not. And I mean, they don't have a problem with you saying they're all demons or this or that, right? Or pushing religious agendas. They have no problem with that. But when you actually start talking about this stuff in a more out of a box way, they have issues with it. Yeah, I am so censored, it's ridiculous. Admittedly, I'm not the best at this, but that is not necessary to be the best at this to at least have a few people show up. You know what I mean? But yeah, the shredding score. So, yeah. 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 If it's it's in China and other parts, and it's going to be the intent is this credit score system is how they're going to keep us in line, right? And then people like me that it won't work, that they're just going to censor us and shadow ban us and just into oblivion. Might be a few people who discover us, a chance, but who cares if you got, you know, 100 or 1,000 people listening? It really doesn't matter, right? Or less, I mean, for me, it's never going to be those numbers. But I'm okay with it, so because it usually doesn't matter to me. I mean, this same shit was going on before the internet too. That was this thing, right? Censorship is terrible, and one of the best ways to censor people is actually through their family members, their social network, the people around us. What are things we're not allowed to talk about? We're not allowed to talk about religion at work. We're not allowed to talk about politics at work. We're not allowed to talk about what's really going on in this world at work. Just get your job done. Just shut up and get your job done. That's pretty much the attitude, right? But these jobs, most of us have, jobs that are questionable as far as how important they actually are, right? I mean, they are to us because they provide, some income in order to have a roof over your head. Even that, when you think about the whole matrix and how it's all designed, right? It's designed, you think it's all just about greed, right? Just about people just want to make money off your blood, sweat, and tears. But it's not just about that. I mean, because if we were conscious, aware, fully aware, and we were actually thinking about each other and the benefit of this place, if we really are focused on those sort of things, we would never in a million years have the system that we live under. You know what I mean? Housing should be something that also should not be cost extreme amount of money. And did you mortgage? How come you don't have a right to the mineral rights and to the land? All right. And the only thing you might have a right to is if you pay your mortgage is that box that you paid for. But by the time you pay for that, you're going to be too worn out and not even going to be able to enjoy it. It's just another one of those, and then Sleepy Joe, and there's Sleepy Joe, but Sleepy Joe is a Jesuit. So then all roads lead to Rome. So, and most people think that the Vatican is just simply the headquarters, the Roman Catholic Church. Far from it. It's just an element of their control. They're the largest monarchy in the world. Think about that. Now, people say that the feudalism is gone away. Has it? Has it really? How do we know that? A lot of these wars, just in Europe and other places throughout the world, were truly based on a monarchical aspirations, imperial aspirations. Now, the monarchies never left. They just conditioned us not to believe that they have left. But all you have to do is do some basic research to know that they're still the ones running the show. And this goes back now to this whole thing that Mark was taking about the matrix controllers and the bodies, the meat suit. And it seems that the very quote unquote top of the pyramidal structure of this place seem to have some kind of relationship with these things. If you want to call them aliens or demons or spirits or whatever entities you want to call them. Some people swear they're Bigfoot. I mean, I think they'll appear whatever you want or whatever they want you to think that they are. These shape-shifting things of some sort. And then on top of that, this meat suit, and it's incarnation of meat suit, these entities, these interdimensional beings, spirits, archonic forces, they come into these meat suits, or at least they appear to be meat suits, and appear almost as physical. When in reality, what they're doing is it's just simply in some kind of avatar, They didn't raise the retirement age. Monarchies are the tea drinkers and beans on the toast water. Eaters. Oh, I missed an Aleister Crowley type. Yeah, that. But it's even more advanced than the Aleister Crowley. The reason why you and I all know about Aleister Crowley is because they wanted us to know about Aleister Crowley. And why is that? Because it's to mislead us. It goes down the wrong path. That's the way it goes. But these bloodlines, they do seem to be interested in these rituals. From my research, they do seem to be really interested in spirit worship, some form of animism. But, whatever it is, whatever they're worshiping, whatever these things are, I think there is such a thing as possession, too. It's not exactly the same thing that religion has told us, because religion, once again, is designed to mislead us again. But there's times when these certain people, they are handed over to these things in order for them to infest or go inside. You know what I mean? And they help navigate the meat suit and the mind. But it always goes down the same path. Yeah, it's certainly about controlling the masses, which is no good for anybody, including the people who are infested. What they want to be called the elites. They're the worst of all of us as far as the circumstances that they're in. They might seem like they got things better than us because they have fancier cars and planes and houses and all that crap, right? And they're privileged. But just imagine living their lives. Just imagine being one of the uber elites, one of the plutocracy, the managerial class, and having to hobnob with people that you can't frickin' stand, having to kiss butt all day long, and worried if you're going to lose your job position, etc. This is how the Illuminati or the Matrix works. People think Illuminati is a joke. Illuminati is simply just a catchword at this point of all the different cabals and institutions that help maintain the empire. You and I from the West are part of the Roman Empire. They're still, and they pretty much have taken over this whole damn place. There's just a few problem areas, but NASA, never a straight answer. A bunch of puppets. It is. But the thing is, I think we are too. We just don't realize it. This nation is ran by a private, there's more corporations. Sure. It's a hodgepodge of cabals, but everything goes down the same direction in the end. So, I mean, we saw clearly in the past, in 2000, 2021, 2022, exactly how they they have the capacity to manipulate all of us. And there's a whole bunch of groups involved. But in the end of the day, it still goes to, there's this thing, the spiritual side of things, where people want to like it or not. It doesn't mean there's a God or the God that you believe in, right? It just means that there's these interdimensional beings. There's a spiritual side to this soul trap matrix. That there's something, the high probability there's something more to us than just the meat suit that we're in. That we have this consciousness, this spark of light, our life, that they have managed somehow, some way to put in a loop system that's constantly being reincarnated, which basically means going into another avatar, right? And he did bring up the stuff about as a child, right? And what an infant goes through. Now, and he brings up a very interesting analogy. Now, if you're a controller and you just need a meat suit temporarily, but you want to have full awareness and consciousness of who you are, right? Then it's where these meat suits come in, right? That people call aliens and all that. Maybe even Bigfoot, for that matter. But then they can discard it because it gets in the way of them and their journeying and their travels and going from realm to realm, right? Whereas we are born into this meat suit, and it's trauma from the moment of inception to the moment of going through the birth canal, and then to the first 7 years of life and being nothing but a blank slate and just being totally indoctrinated by the people around you, right? And it's really hard to break free from all this stuff. It takes a lot of work to get to the point, at least for me. It's taken a lot of thought and contemplation and reflection and just thinking about where I'm at this point, right? You say, well, it's not really offering that much. And I agree with you, because that's part of the problem that we're dealing with. Go here. And that the problem is we live in a system, in a matrix, that offers up a whole bunch of confusion, endless questions that keep us preoccupied, so that we never really get to the bottom of what's going on here. But let's think about the meat suit that they've given us. It's a meat suit that is very flawed, thousands upon thousands of genetic flaws. And then that's just one of the things. Just the fact that, the brain itself, we're not able to access the vast majority of it. It's like a giant reduction valve, as those guys talk about. It really is. It's like the brain is designed somehow to capture our true essence, our consciousness, and only allow a little bit of it to come out. Let's look at all the different look at the amount of pain and suffering that's involved. Just getting in a relationship. People cheat on each other all the time. It's very hard to keep the family unit together. Are we even designed to be? And is the family unit itself a part of a trap? In the end of the day, it's something to ask. As unpopular as it is because women are even. If there's any women, I'm sorry, but women have a higher rate of cheating than men do. Yet men are always the ones that be treated like they're nothing but dogs. You know what I mean? But all you do is just go online and see the endless women again trapped, cheating on their men. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, there's I just think this whole system is designed to cause maximum amount of suffering, pain, loosh production, as they like to call it. And that what we're dealing with is a system that's designed to really drain us. We're like batteries that are we're there to feed the system. These entities, these are archonic forces. So I honestly think that a lot of stuff that we're dealing with are either illusions, they're parasitical in nature, they're deceptive in nature, right? The number of people that I've heard has talked about this message that they have about love. How many just interviewed a guy? How many people? That the Bigfoot's here to show us how to live this place, right? They're above us, right? They're the ones in control. Where we are the stewards, if you will. We are it's a nice way of saying that we're the slaves. So if that's the case, then Bigfoot's fault for why this place is all screwed up. Or it's the aliens. Or it's these other things that are pretending to be Bigfoot and aliens. But the biggest problem in all this is that we all know there's a problem, and we don't have any definitive answers to our problem. And I think we need to talk that way and be honest about it. And it's very unpopular to talk that way because people want absolute, conclusive, solid answers. But you're not going to get solid answers in this world. You're just not. What you're going to get is rhetoric, propaganda, storytelling, and anything to occupy your time. This is a serious, in our minds, more importantly, in which you spend all this time doing this kind of research, whether there's religion, philosophy, theology, religion, and then maybe the cryptozoology, ufology, Bigfootery, right? On and on it goes. And you're just like, this is just a clusterfuck of madness. That's what it is. And people are pretending they have the answers. And that's all they're doing. They're pretending they have the answers. I mean, I don't see any amazing stuff that's happening from people that know about this stuff. I don't see it happening. I see a lot of talk and rhetoric, and spinning the tail. There's a lot of hucksters and charlatans in these communities. I mean, it's amazing. And I don't. A lot of times you don't start out that way, but it feeds the ego, right? And popular now. There's people watching me, and it's just about and always in the back of their minds is everyone I ever talked to, money. How much money I can make off these people. I mean, I just warned you that when you're going down this road, don't trust anything and anybody says. Honestly, if they can't prove to you 100% that what they're claiming is a freaking Bigfoot, don't, including me. I mean, I filmed some stuff that I say that I believe are Bigfoot, and that it sure behaved like Bigfoot and looked like Bigfoot. But like I said, they never sat me down, had a powwow, shook my hand, gave me a big bear hug, and hung out together. You know what I mean? So, and those that say that they have those kind of experiences, there's no way to know if they had them or not, because they're just saying that. There's no documentation, there's no proof, there's no evidence. It's just hearsay. And yet we're experiencing things. It's quite disturbing when you really start to think about what we're dealing with, because it's across the board, and it's just a whole bunch of fuckery. Let's get on to the next section.
That this object completely violated what any conventional aircraft that we have can do. Now, I don't know if it was a military, government, or something, but it was not the normal helicopter aircraft. Nothing could do what this thing did. So this was first, the lights were all wrong. It was a lit up object, and it seemed to be, the lights were pulsing, almost like they were turning. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. It wasn't that big, but it was definitely moving. And then what it did was it came toward my house here, and then it made no sound. Again, these things have frequently get reported that they make no sound.
Sorry about this. Did I skip the number 2? Let's see if it plays.
I have 2 separate times witnessed.
Yes, I skipped 2. My apologies. That's my fault. So let's get back. I don't want you to miss the next 10 minutes here. It's interesting.
I have 2 separate times witnessed absolute, the classic UFO on 2 different occasions. And the first one, matter of fact, I'm going to show you what it looks like, because there's a historical case where the UFO looked exactly like what the one I saw. So I'm going to go.
And how old were you at this time?
I was young, 9, 10, maybe 11 at the most. It was in New Jersey, and that's where I lived at the time. And I was in my backyard playing. It was, the 70s, so you have mostly play outside,
Sure.
There's not like I can go on my Xbox, and there is no technology like today to distract you. So I was just playing in my backyard. I forget what I was doing, throwing a ball or something, or playing. And then I lived near an airport, which was about maybe 4 or 5 miles away from where I was. Not a big one, but a smaller airport. And I was also in the Cub Scouts and stuff like that. So I knew compass directions, and I knew which way north was. So this thing caught my attention. It was a dark gray kind of object, and as a kid, I was very familiar with aircraft because they would fly over my house as one of the routes the planes would take off and land. It was a position where from the west, if I was facing west, I would be in my backyard. I would be looking at the track of one of the runways. So when I was in my backyard this one day, I had caught my attention was this like object because it wasn't flying like a plane. So I was very familiar with aircraft, the noise they made, the helicopters. Plus, there was a National Guard station there, and their military helicopters would, fly over sometimes. So and little planes and private jets, stuff like that. So this day, the object caught my attention because it wasn't flying like a plane. It was going in a zigzag pattern. It would be going, coming toward me from the north. So it was flying in a direction that would have put it pretty close to the airport track at some point. So I was watching it. It caught my attention, and I was like almost stunned by kind of like, what is that thing? It didn't make any sense. I was trying to process what it was. As it got closer, and it made absolutely no sound. There was no engine noise or nothing, and I finally could discern that it was an actual flying saucer. And the shape and description of it. Later, I've found a historical case from, I think, 1950s. I'm going to bring it up on the screen here in a second. This thing,
you're breaking up on us. You're breaking up on us, Dan. Sorry. Yeah, you said you were going to take up the picture. Yep, we can hear you now. But you said you're going to bring up the picture, and then we heard it broke up. So.
Oh, I'm looking at the stream health here. Let me see. It says healthy stream. Excellent. I don't know. Anyway, I was watching this thing. It was a classic, dark gray or metallic gray flying saucer with a very smooth bottom, and it had kind of like slightly wider base, and then it kind of canted up, like the whole classic thing. And on top, it had like this kind of like weird little stubby. I couldn't say it was an antenna, but it kind of looked something odd like that. Well, there's a historical case. Let me bring it up on the screen here. Hold on. Share. Okay. Hold on, let me find it. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
OverWatch.
Can everybody see that?
Yeah, now it's up here.
Okay, the McMinnville UFO incident with photographs. It was from the 1950s. Now, this UFO here, which I'm going to blow up so you can see it. This photograph is pretty famous. And you see, this is what I saw. It was extremely identical to this. Let me bring up the other picture, which shows it from a different perspective when it kind of tilted over. So this thing was flying in a short zigzag pattern. So it wasn't going left and it would right and left. It was flying a very the north to the south. And then as it came parallel to like the runway direction, it made a turn to the east, and it flew right over my house. I'm watching this thing. And before it got to my house, when I was finally able to process what I was looking at, I went bananas. I was screaming for my dad to come out because I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I wanted anybody to see this before it disappeared. So my dad came out. He's like, "Oh, what are you yelling about?" And I said, "Look," and I pointed to it, and he watched as it came from the north to the south. And at this point, you could see clearly it's a flying saucer. And then it turned to the east, and it simply zigzagged its way into the distance, and eventually, went out of sight. Now, that was the first time. And then when, my dad was very skeptical about everything. And I still remember, even when he was near his 80s, we would sometimes talk about that whole incident, and he would say something like, I know I saw it, but I still don't want to believe it.
Yeah, that's cognitive dissonance on display.
Right. So this thing, this flying saucer, whatever, that's no sound, broad daylight. It was a clear day, very few of any clouds, and there was a nice blue sky. I mean, it was crystal clear what I was looking at. Of course, this completely reinforced they're aliens and flying saucers.
For sure. How could it not?
Right. I'm only 10, 11 years old, whatever I was at the time. Now, the second time was here in the South in Florida. I was actually I was in the house, but people were outside. Other people saw it first and called to me, and I went outside to see what they were talking about. And it was at nighttime. This was a nighttime sighting. Now, a lot of people out there also may not know that I have had some flight training. In the late 90s, I took flight lessons, and I flew in a small, like Cessna 172. So I was familiar now with flight dynamics and, what planes can and can't do. I had gone through the trouble of, it was a hobby for a while. While I could have afforded it back then, and then I couldn't afford it anymore, so I had to stop. But the thing that helped me realize is what I saw here in Florida was that this object completely violated what any conventional aircraft that we have can do. Now, I don't know if it was a military, government, or something, but it was not the normal helicopter aircraft. Nothing could do what this thing did. So this was first, the lights were all wrong. It was a lit up object, and it seemed to be, the lights were pulsing, almost like they were turning. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. It wasn't that big, but it was definitely moving. And then what it did was it came toward my house here, and then it made no sound. Again, these things have frequently get reported that they make no sound, but this thing had made no sound, and then it maneuvered flying horizontally, and then it maneuvered into an upward movement straight up. and until it disappeared. Now, aircraft can't do that. It takes a tremendous amount of energy just suddenly change direction, but not really doable. It would take so much energy.
You broke up again, Dan. You said it takes a tremendous amount of energy, and then what?
To make a maneuver like that. If you're going to go from a horizontal trajectory and then go immediately with no curve, no turn, you're just kind of like going to go straight up. That is not something that can be done, and especially the way this thing did it. I was watching this thing; it made no sound. And again, I'm living pretty close to one of those small airports, and there's helicopters that fly around here all the time. I see them there at night, during the day, private jets. Plus, now I have familiar with how the planes work because I took flight lessons, and this thing was not anything that is, that we're told even exists. So it was another UFO. And that was at night, though. Of course, some people, including Lindley, when I had the opportunity to talk to him, brought up the fact that why did they have lights?
Yeah, why?
Which is
they made it this far. Do they really need fucking lights?
I mean, they're not trying to comply with FAA regulations because their lights don't match what aircraft are supposed to have anyway. You're supposed to have the red, the green, the taxi lights, the landing lights. This thing had lights that would confuse any pilot because you couldn't. It was like red to yellow to blue, and it was kind of twirling, or at least the lights were twirling around. And this, could have been some military craft, some top secret thing. I don't know. This is, of course, we're talking like 2014, 2015. At this point in time, I'm just getting really starting to get deep into the research of, like biblical research and, all that stuff that I was going through back then. So I'm still thinking this is, alien craft or whatever. And I reported it to MUFON, believe it or not. And the guy from MUFON said that I was not the first person to report this craft here. And it was there were other sightings in Florida. So, and Florida is a bit of a hot spot for UFOs. I'm sure you're aware of that, Mark. We are famous down here for
we're famous for all sorts of shit. Especially our insanity. Or it's like a trademark down here.
Listen, there are two things. Okay, so I've lived in New Jersey. I've lived in Florida. There are two common comical relief things in many, many TV shows and movies. Is they will always bring up New Jersey and Florida. They are constantly mentioned. And
I always
TV
like
shows.
how New Jersey was called the armpit of the nation. It's so fitting. Because as soon as you go over the George Washington Bridge, it's like, oh, and you got to go down that New Jersey Turnpike. It is horrible. Yeah. You got to hold your nose for 20, 30, 40, 50 miles.
Yes. Also, all these links, any links I'm showing anybody tonight, I've already put in the description section of the video. So, and after it processes and stays, it should be there. These should be below. What I'm showing now is unbelievable that I was able to find this one, because this one was memory hold. Is the in 1985 there used to be a
why don't you explain what memory hold is, just so some people who don't know what it is
disappeared. The information used to be there and it is now gone. It's vanished, right? That's pretty much what it is, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me switch.
Thank you, Knack, for your very kind and generous super chat. I appreciate you, my friend.
Let me switch which.
Okay, so we're going to a new screenshot.
Yeah, we're going to go to a new one. Okay.
OverWatch
Okay, let's see if that works.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, I wish I could play this, but it'll probably be, copyright problems, so I can't do it. But listen, I'm going to put the link in there so you can see it.
Yeah,
1985.
scroll down, too. Like, to the description, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Oh, to the,
and the title
thing here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you see here, you see what
yes, yeah, I was going to bring that up, too.
Yeah, it's you can't think for yourself or investigate things for yourself. We have to put things in context for you.
I call that like the confirmer. Like, if that's there, it's a badge of honor. It's like, okay, I'll look into something more. Not even joking.
Exactly.
Not even joking.
No. Yeah, so this made an impression on this YouTuber, obviously, and just in case, I grabbed this and downloaded it because I didn't want to, in case it disappears. If it does disappear, and people tell me this link becomes dead or whatever, I will repost it on Odyssey or BitChute or some place that they don't care. Anyway, in the 1980s and into the 1990s, used to be an HBO docu-series that was called America Undercover. They covered all kinds of topics, but they did one episode about UFOs. It was, I recommend everybody watch this video. This is like a 55-minute video. It is a little bit, low resolution because we're talking about 1985 television. But this documentary, I thought, was like the most impressive UFO documentary I'd ever seen and ever have seen. It didn't try to explain or, tell you what it was, what UFOs were, but the cases that they examined here were mind-blowing. And that one guy was in this. They always had I don't know if you remember him, Mark, the official debunker. He would be in every freaking UFO thing in the 1970s and 1980s. And then later it came up.
Go ahead. I can't think of his name. It's the guy. Actually, I think he lived in Florida.
Oh, he was obnoxious, pompous. A pompous ass. He was the most annoying thing in every documentary or in search of episode when they threw him in there to give the counterpoints, and he was just unbelievable. So he's in this documentary. Of course, later, now we have a totally different narrative, right? Now we got the official government version is that they are real, right? And they've also rebranded them to UAPs. We don't want to call them UFOs anymore. We have to control the language and manipulate how things are called, so we invent things.
All right. Let's just have a little break here. The video he's talking about is right here. This is Josh Reeves, the Global Research, whatever. Global Reality Channel, which I'm not a subscriber to, but I found this, and it's just what he's talking about. UFOs, what's going on? Rare 1985 HBO UFO documentary. It's about 55 minutes long. And he feels that that's something worth looking at. So just to let you know. And let's talk about a couple of those things. Then we'll play another video. And that would make us halfway through. Then we'll play some music. So anyways, the lights. First of all, he talks about this, like these UFOs type things, or these like plates, or like stacked up dishes, if you will. Plates. The largest one being the bottom, then a medium size, then a smaller one. And then there's something popping in the middle, whether it's an entity or something like that. What's really interesting about a lot of these UFOs is, and especially in the daytime, they're very dark and shadowy, just like the things that we film in the woods. They're like shadowy, more than actually look anything like nuts and bolts made out of metal stuff. I'm not saying there's not ones that aren't made out of metal, but I have no idea. I mean, you could try to trust the story of Roswell, which I'll talk about, but I don't trust anything. If it's been on television, if it's been on theaters, forget about it. He talks about these jerks that are like these professional skeptics, right? They did bunkers, right? And they're all like paid shills. Even back then, they were paid shills. And you see the same thing going on in the Bigfoot community. It's always the same group of people every freaking year, the same people. And it's like and those same people don't say anything new year after year, but they have to be the one. And all those UFO or the Bigfoot conventions or UFO conventions for that matter, all right? They're the same ones. They're indispensable, even though they're not going to tell you anything different than anybody else is going to tell you, except they got the degree. And this is weaponization of anthropology that's being used. It's clearly being used. And most people are, unless you research this stuff, you're ignorant of it. You have no idea. Once you discover that that's what they're doing, the next thing you know, it's the same people, right? And they have contracts, and they have these are the same people who are in these videos and all that kind of stuff. And they always have hidden agendas. And I'm just like, how is it possible that it's always the same group of people? And there's a new batch being hatched right now. And God forbid, if anything I could tell you is go do your own research and don't follow anybody, because they don't, you know what? Then they start preaching to you and start telling you this, that, and the other, as far as, and using the new age nonsense on you, or trying to make these things out more than they actually are. I mean, it's so ridiculous, the things you would go through just to try to find the truth about anything. It talks about the lights, the UFOs. One of the things it talks about, and it's true. Every the UFOs I've ever seen, the lights don't make any sense. There's no logic to them. They just make it. It's just lights to just what? Distract pilots, distract us, catch our attention. They certainly. I mean, if they're mechanical nuts and bolts UFOs, why do they need those lights? They didn't need it all the way here. Why also now that they need lights? There's something really going on here. It's much more suspect. And I think a lot of this stuff has to do with plasma and energy. And somehow it emits this energy. It makes it look like lights, like we're familiar with on a car or an airplane or the street lights and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think they're actually real lights. I think they're bursts of energy. Knowledge is power. Some got to keep the knowledge secret. Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm cold. You're in Florida. So are these two guys. I think Mark's in there too. It's either for some reason it's San Diego or it's Florida. I think he's in Florida. I think I'm mixing up Greg Carlson from the Higher Side Chat, because he's now in Florida too, by the way. He was in San Diego. So now there's some interesting characters in Florida, man. You should reach out to these guys. You never know. Might make a friendship or something. So these lights, and there's red and yellow, the blue lights. And he said it was interesting that they caught my attention. This is during a time period when he was heavily in biblical research. He was focused on Jesus and his Bible. And I noticed that happened to me, and it happens to a lot of people who are really focused on that stuff, that where things start to happen. Because I truly believe that this collection of books, 66 books, which ended in 66 AD and has nothing to do with this, this collection of books of black magic that ensnare us and trap us. and cause fear and doubt in oneself and believe that you're some evil thing. Remember, you didn't choose the body that was made for you. None of us choose it. In fact, every single one of us trapped in this body, male or female, with hormones and God, man, all the other chemical reactions and things that go on. And they put us in this situation. You're guaranteed to fail at just about everything. Literally, I mean, the odds are you're going to cheat on somebody. You're going to freaking break someone's heart. You're going to deceive someone. You're going to cause a lot of loosh one way or the other. And you're going to feel a lot of loosh from people. You're going to be disheartened and heartbroken. Your dreams are going to be broken. And it sounds real negative, but that's the reality of the thing that was the place that we live in. And so we have this, we're shoved into this meat suit. It's full of flaws. It's poorly designed. The spinal column is awful. The brain is like a reduction valve. We're slow at learning. We're constantly looking for the truth and for questions. It's like it's something that's built into us. And yet this place is very elusive about the truth. We spend our whole lifetime looking for the truth, only to end up with more and more questions. This whole place is really sinister. And they want you and I to feel like we're the fault for it. It's our fault. And if they'll try that and then that doesn't work, they'll say it's Adam's and Eve's fault. But at the end of the day, it's us humans' fault. It's not the designers of this place. It's not the creators of the meat suit in this place that they've shoved us in. It's not their fault in any way, shape, or form, right? Oh, then we'll read about stuff like the Book of Enoch and all that, and then we'll say so. But apparently, these things are still stronger than the Creator or God, Heavenly Father, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, Allah, because he doesn't seem to have enough sense to actually fix this stuff, to give the average man and woman a fighting chance here, to even make a logical decision about anything. And everything we end up doing, it usually just ends up getting us more ensnared and trapped in the system. Have you ever noticed that? We go to school and college and get student loans and get in debt. We end up getting jobs we hate and don't want, and then we go back to school. We end up marrying somebody only to be divorced within 7 years. In the meantime, you're cheating on each other, can't be honest with each other. How many kids are brought up in broken homes? I can say one thing I did right. After my son's mother and I broke up, that's a story in its own right. I made a decision, you know what? I'm not getting in a relationship. I'm going to be there for my son. I'm not going to play this game of playing games, you know what I mean? Now, his mom's the complete opposite. I don't know how many relationships she's been in. But this, it's just what it is. Some people literally cannot live with themselves. They have to, like vampires, they have to literally be in a relationship. And I find that sinister in its own right. Other people will say otherwise. But when you really look into it, these relationships, how many are like ticking time bombs? How you spend all this time with somebody, they're telling you they love you and all this shit, and then they rip the rug right from under your feet. They rip out your heart, right? To destroy you. And you say, Mike, you're being negative. No, I'm being honest about it. This place is negative. That's the problem. And we don't be honest about the fact that there's an awful lot of negativity in this place. And we're responsible constantly. It's all our fault. It's our fault. And you hear constantly that it's the human being's fault, right? It's our fault. We got to get our act together. But none of us know how to get our act together. Literally, nobody has a freaking clue how to get their act together. No one's ever got their act together. Yet the whole world expects to get the act together, but no human beings ever got the act together. You see what I'm getting at? You see, it's your fault. It's my fault, but we were shoved into this a matrix. We were shoved into this avatar, this meat suit, and it's all our fault. Now, I know other people say that we agreed to come here. Maybe so. But I think it's just like any other contract. There's all that endless fine print. No one ever reads it. The problem with this contract is we don't get out of it, period. Can't file bankruptcy, and we can't, have a restart. We have to go through this. Maybe it's 5 years, 50 years. Maybe it's 120 years. Can you imagine living 120 years in this shithole? And people glorify that and say it's an amazing thing. And I'm like, really? You know how many people are 80 and 90 years old, 100, barely move in the nursing homes? Everybody's forgotten them. They just show up once in a while, maybe for the funeral, that type of thing. I mean, it's ridiculous, the whole system that we're in. Now, other cultures, they're much more attentive to their family members, right? Especially in the past. But did that mean that their situation was any better? You're in a company of people, even if your family member's not, most of them you can't stand. There's always got to be the one that's a scoundrel, and the other's a crook, and one is pedo, and another one is doing this and that. I mean, it goes on and on. It's just a madhouse. And then everyone's fighting over the stupidest things, like the president of the United States, the corporation of the District of Columbia. As if you had a choice in the matter anyways. They selected those bozos for you to put all your energy on. You never selected any of them. And how many times have we seen those elections being rigged? Literally. Right before our eyes. And everyone just goes, oh, well. And the reason that is because it's all designed to produce maximum energy, negative energy, lose. Look at people, how during elections, people get really, they lose their minds. Literally. Because they actually believe in the political theater. You and I have no idea what, Joe blind man Biden, whatever the hell his name is, the wannabe Jesuit priest, but they told him to be a politician instead. The guy that goes every year to the Vatican and bows before the Pontifex Maximus, the Caesar of our day. Yeah, that's what he does. And by the way, that's what frickin', everyone's beloved Trump did as well. He just grew up right across the street from the Al Smith dinner. He used to go there as a kid. That's where everyone gets selected to be the president. And then they do through this ritual called the election, in which convinces people that their vote counts. And they pull on that lever. In the meantime, they invent all that energy and frustration, right? Focus on anything but what's really going on, because that's how this place is designed. It wasn't any better prior to it. It's always been corrupt because this place is corrupt. But remember, they'll blame you for the corruption. They'll blame you for all the environmental degradation, the system that you're in. But you and I had no choice in anything. We literally didn't even have a choice in the voting of the president of the United States, your governor. If you're lucky, you might have a say in a local politician. That's that's locally the political system is not so corrupt and so good old, these good old boy networks, the cliques. The same kids, you remember growing up at school, the ones that end up being like the cheerleaders and the class presidents and the ones that you always are propped up in front of your damn faces. And, when you're at the gymnasium, you're having those prep rallies or pep rallies or whatever the hell it is. And you're looking at these kids and you're like, you don't like any of them. They don't like you. And they're going to end up being your bosses and your and the politicians and your governors and your mayors and and your local pastors and your priests, and you're like, God, is this true? It cannot be true. It is true. Yeah, that's true. The more you learn, the more questions you have. Absolutely. I believe we must do it ourselves, learning experience. I think the only thing to learn is not to come back here. Period. There ain't nothing else to learn. Maybe life is like heat treating a sword to make the soul stronger. Maybe. But there's no evidence for it. There is no evidence for it. There's a lot of talk and rhetoric. So but my observation is not the case. There's just a lot of BS. I mean, like religion will turn you into an absolute frickin' liar. You will lie for your truth. That's not good. Politics the same way. All these institutions, right? Instead of being honest about what's really going on, not only with ourselves and what's around us, but the system that we're in. Now, you might say that's very negative and despairing, but listen, they always say that you can't deal with a problem till you know what it is. People don't want to know what it is. They want to compartmentalize it. They're convinced that they just focus on one area, that somehow is going to make a greater difference to this place. But if you don't, from my observation, if you don't have a more holistic approach to whether you live, you're never going to really have a clue where you're living. It is this holographic nightmare that we're living in is just that. So anyways, let's listen to another 10 minutes, and I'll take a musical intermission and play some awesome music, and I'll carry on with this.
That, and pretend like we always use these terms like UAPs, cyclone, bomb, or whatever it is they call it, the weather channel. Yeah. I mean, it just all of a sudden the new weather guy will start using, and the first time I heard that, I'm like, what the hell, why are they changing the name of something? But it makes total sense when you know how they try to manipulate the language to control how you think about things. So now suddenly, the screen share disappear, or is it still?
Oh yeah. I didn't know if you were going to play anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, you know what? It looks like I'm sharing two screens there. That's weird.
No, it's just us and the whatever you're sharing.
I see. Okay. All right. The whole thing with the funny thing is that the debunker in this documentary later gets confirmed that he was like a paid debunker. He was paid to do it. So back then it was all debunk. Now it's like, oh, they're real. Look, we're chasing them with our jets. I mean, I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing that. I have a few theories, but that's what I mean. It is very frustrating to research UFO phenomena because there's so much crap with it. The other thing, if you want to research the afterlife and you can get your head out of the whatever brainwashing you grew up with, and maybe it's because so many people are brainwashed into one of these camps, like they're religious or they're materialist, and that's all that they will bounce back between. So nobody cares about us out here, the few that figure out that there's something else going on. But with UFOs, they clutter the information stuff out there. I don't have any idea what is for sure is going on. There's theories, but I mean, what do you think, Mark?
No, I mean, I'm with you. It's who knows, right? Nobody knows, and it is there's so much disinfo out there on this topic that it boggles the mind, and you have to kind of reroute yourself to what you believe, what you think. I remember embarrassing, but I remember in being like probably like 14 years old, 12, 14 years old. And I mean, it's embarrassing now, but it's not embarrassing thinking at the what age I was. But I believe that the alien autopsy was possibly real. I mean, I was like, oh shit, maybe it's real. Oh, what happened here? Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was a possibility, and I don't know. It's been an interesting adventure, but like you and I are probably on the same page age-wise when we started looking into some of this, because I've shared this story a couple times. When I was with my father, we were driving towards like on a certain highway, getting on the freeway and heading north, and he went out of his way to tell me that, son, X amount of years ago, he said he was on his way to college. Like, he was going back and forth to his college, and it was off to the right. He saw a UFO over the trees, and the UFO kept traveling north, and he gunned it and followed the UFO for as far as he could, and it literally went all the way up to where he was at school, and that was like right around an hour, little under an hour. And so that always stuck out in my head, because it's like, here I have my dad telling me about an experience that he had, and then of course I'm seeing things on TV that are reassuring me that these things are possible. And so that kind of started me on my journey too. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I would say, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. And so, and then of course I went crazy into Roswell and the alien autopsy. And the alien autopsy, I would thought, like, even though there was all this stuff out there saying, oh, it's fake and this and that, I was like, oh, well, maybe it's real. Maybe it's true. Maybe everything does come from outer space. Maybe they do have the aliens. So, I mean, like, it was like a conspiratorial mindset, even like it, 8, 9, 10, however old I was, like, questioning things. But, hats off to my parents for always saying, question everything, don't just believe everything you're told. So I thank them for that, because I think that's a really important thing that everyone should be brought up with. Whether that's going to pan out or not is a whole nother story. But being able to question and observe and not just buy into anything willy-nilly is a really important value that should be instilled on children. And just to kind of, wrap this thought up, I've been working in the background, writing up multiple pages of notes for parents, because I've gotten this request a lot where parents have reached out and said, what do I do? Like, I have a young child at home or children at home, and like, I want to be able to share this with them, but I don't want to scare the shit out of them too. And so I'm kind of working on an outline of how to approach it, how to share it with the younger ones. But the most important thing is that you know your children better than anyone, and that, dropping the seed, no matter what it is, the most important seed is that they have an open mind, that they question authority, that they question everything and anything, and not just believe what is hand-fed to them by the system out of convenience and deception. So, anyways, that's my kind of, that's it.
Yeah, now you mentioned Roswell. I just want to go back to I'll share the screen again. Hold on.
Sure.
In that documentary, which does have an internet movie database link, you can see it here. Now, there is this is the guy. This is the debunker here, Phil Klass.
Oh, yes, Philip Klass.
He's the professional debunker.
And he's, look at this, author and military expert.
Yes, military.
And Stanton Freeman, he's a total deep state asset, 100%.
Yeah. Now, in this documentary, it was
So is
probably
Hynek. Jesus.
Yeah, but in this documentary, they had a very detailed interview with Jesse Marcel, which you never see in any other documentary.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Air Force guy that was the first guy on the scene there at Roswell.
What? Oh, wasn't that? What? Isn't Jesse the son of?
No. See, that's the thing. This documentary has the actual guy. Not that's one of the reasons
okay.
it's really one of the greatest UFO documentaries. This guy, it is very detailed, going over a Roswell case and Jesse Marcel telling his version.
Can I ask you what you believe about Roswell?
Well,
and you have Ronald Crawley there too. Just gonna point that out.
As far as Roswell goes, what I'm certain of is that there's something happened at Roswell, and I know this not because of what people say happened at Roswell, but because the government, the government people in the 1990s lied twice. So there's 3 different lies about Roswell. 3 different lies. The first lie...
Yeah, but they lied the day after it happened, dude.
Yeah.
Yes, they lied the day after it happened. We'll talk more about that. In the meantime, let's play some intro music. I found this new band. It's called Cannabis. Cannabis. Like the bus, like the vehicle. Right? Like you go to school on a bus. Cannabis. Desert Trip. This is a pretty cool song. Cannabis. This is a badass song. Cannabis. So, anyways, yeah, well, we're going to get into this now. They can start to get a little heated in the debate, and this is now about this Roswell stuff and about any legitimacy at all. I think Mark has kind of figured out, or at least he said it, and that it's in his mind that it's all just a big grand deception. They'll bring up stuff like Project Blue Beam and other things like that. And I think he gets maybe a little impatient with Dan for some reason. I think that always happens in this journey, right? We got to learn how to have patience with each other because we're all in a certain level, right? And a lot of us are totally drinking the Kool-Aid one way or the other, right? And it's really hard to. And they bring up something very interesting, and that is, Mark said he's had people reach out to him and said, who realize that the big deception that we're all in, and you know, how do we approach our children about this? Because it's a bit depressing, and we want to keep them strong and have them believe in themselves and believe they can make something of themselves, right? But I think you also have to be honest with them too and say, listen, there's a lot of things out there. You just can't believe everything. Question everything. Literally, question everything. Question yourself at times, if necessary. What are your motives? Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you really not to pursue the truth, or really to make a better person out of yourself, or to really find truly the knowledge necessary to break free? Or is this all just a big fucking game that's been played on us? And I think the vast majority of it is been a game that's been played on us. But how do we deal with that then? How do we come to terms with the fact that the place that we actually really live in, that might even be even worse than what the religious people say? That's a really disturbing concept. Anyways, let's now go listen to part 5. We're about halfway through.
And that's the first line. The first line is the day after it happened. In because the Roswell story wouldn't go away, and it wouldn't go away because the guy from the base told the news reporter they had a flying saucer and that crashed, right? Yeah. So it's not like, you know, like this is the military guy from the base, the press officer told the news that they had this. And because that story simply would not be killed, they couldn't make it go away. In the 1990s, if you remember, they had a whole.
But what if it's a disinformation campaign, though?
It could be. But
that's what I really think it is. Everything, in my opinion, points to that.
They went out of their way on the Roswell incident for some reason. And so in the 90s, you had a whole relaunching official investigation, and then they created like this whole story that it wasn't a weather balloon, it was a top secret weather balloon, and then
it's top secret, okay,
yeah, it's top secret weather balloon, and then people were like still asking, well, you never explained the bodies that, you know, people saw. You never explained the bodies. Why would there be bodies on a weather balloon crash? And so now they get caught in another lie, and then they lie again, and they said that it was they were test dummies for ejection seats for aircraft, except that in 1947 that didn't exist. So, you know, then
but it's like to muddy the waters, dude. Like Roswell, I don't take anything like Rendlesham Forest and Roswell, all this stuff. Like, I just think they're big, massive psyops on the public. I don't think there's anything to them. I really don't.
Right.
I don't think there's a shred of anything. I mean, there's so many, right? Patterson Air Force Base. That's another one. Like for some reason, all these operations that are all these big operations that are in the UFO community and have been around for who knows how long are just, there's always these military connections, and we got to be really careful with her.
Yes, I just want to mention that this is one of the links. Her interviews and her books are on this YouTube page, so you can go look at her. But, she may have been on to something, and we all know how she ended up.
Yeah. No, I think she definitely had, I definitely think she put out a lot of truth. Let's put it that way. Right.
So something for people to check out right there.
Yeah.
And let me see if there's any other interesting. Yeah. So.
But I mean, like, what do you think, like, overall, like, about Roswell?
I don't know. I actually think that because having worked inside and observed the incompetence that goes on in the wonderful land of governmentardism, which is, was employed in and at a lower level for, a whole career. I have to say that it could be just a whole series of incompetent moves that something happened, and then there was a cover up about it, and they did a really bad job at covering it up, mostly because the press officer screwed up the press release.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. They screwed up the press release.
I mean, there's other things that are kind of hard to say what they are exactly. In that 1985 documentary that we talked about, there is a case from New York State, UFO, massive nighttime UFO thing that was flying around this town near a nuclear reactor site for months. And it was caught on video. There's video in the documentary about this thing. It is clearly not aircraft. Is it a giant military craft? Why is it floating around where everybody can see it? In the 1980s, similar to the this thing was more round than anything, but you had like the whole Belgian UFO thing. Remember in the early 90s? Where these giant Chevron craft, and then the Belgian Air Force supposedly chased it. Are they ours? Are we experimenting with stuff over civilian areas, or just making people see?
Well, what about the Phoenix Lights too?
Sure, very similar.
It's like. These things are meant to be seen. Like they're not like little bullshit little, a couple people see them in a field. Like these are massive events. And and they were even mocked, and I remember Christ, when the Phoenix Lights thing happened, I was like, oh my God, this is the proof, this is the evidence, and they're covering it up, and they even made a mockery of it. The governor made a mockery of it and came out with the alien at the press conference, and I was convinced. I was like, oh my God, they're hiding something. But it's all one big psychological operation. I can't see it being any other thing. I just can't.
It could be.
That's just me. That's just me.
No, it could be, but then you have to say that they decided to conduct this massive psychological operation as far back as 1940s.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think they've been doing. Because I think they've been like one of the tools in their arsenal, in my opinion, is a fake alien invasion. Now, whether it'll happen or not, who knows? But if you prime the public for, thinking that aliens are real, or that potentially aliens are real and that UFOs are coming from another planet and, you know, they're going to attack us and blah, 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 then you've primed the public to be not as freaked out when you hit the go button for your operation. But I think the fake alien invasion thing is one tool of many that they have in their arsenal. But in order to get that across, if they choose to use it, then they need to, you know, put out operations that, you know, gets in the public consciousness so that, you know, yeah, everyone may freak out or a number of people may freak out, but it's not going to be as chaotic when they decide and if they decide to pull the trigger on that specific op.
Sure. Well, here's the thing that I feel about that is that they have that as a possibility.
And it's up there. It's up there, right?
It's up there.
Can we at least agree on that?
Yeah, sure. And
it's high up there.
And it's a very simple formula for discerning the news. If they're telling you suddenly that look at the weird turnaround the news has done. They used to make fun of people that believed in UFOs. They used to debunk, make fun of, and this is regular, it's from the local regular news to the big network news. They would generally do that. It would be like make fun of, call them crazy, whatever. And then suddenly now, the news suddenly now wants you to believe that the government says they're real, and now we say they're real. And I'm like, what happened to all the theories about being crazy that reported? I mean, they just transition. It's like, we want you to believe this now, and before we didn't want you to believe it. Now we want you to believe it. And I'm like, well, if you want me to believe it, I'm probably going to believe it less because you guys are a bunch of liars.
Yeah, but they've also liars. Like, I think the reason they've put this.
So, anyways, yeah. So, just talking a little bit about the major that a lot of us feel are staged events, but not the real events. I think that like the real events is like what we did with Mojo and the stuff he was filming in Oregon. And those events don't ever get publicized. The real stuff doesn't get publicized. They want certain things to be publicized so they can control the narrative. And if people understood the bigger issue, the truth that they have zero to no real control over the stuff that's real. If you know, that was redundant. The stuff that's probably is legit, the stuff that I've seen, the people have seen, where you're just like, you know, that wasn't something staged, that wasn't a drone, that wasn't some mechanical thing that a human being made. That was something I saw in the sky, and it didn't make any sense when it made that sharp right turn, or et cetera, you know what I mean? These are things that are, but they don't have, they've always been around us, and we don't have a clue what's going on with that. But I think when it comes to Project Blue Beam, you're going to tap into that. And since people don't know that there's something in the sky, let's tap into it and make it into an imaginary alien invasion. And that's what they're trying to talk about. And, you know, that's one thing that a lot of the Christians, truthers on the internet have talked about a lot. But they, unfortunately, misinform everybody and tell them it's because it's the end of the days. And the Bible makes it very clear the end of the days are going to happen during Jesus' generation, his disciples' generation. But this end of days narrative and a Messiah coming, right, to save us, man, they've been tapping into that for freaking ever and a day because they exploit that. It's one of the weapons of the Matrix. So that's something to think about. As time goes on, we got about maybe 27 minutes of this listening to their stuff. One of the things you can see the diversions, the tension. You can hear the tension is building between Mark and Dan Orthez. And I do believe that part of the whole psyops is to create that tension, right? If we could all just be honest about the fact that none of us know what the hell we're talking about or what we're dealing with. But, this thing is, Mark understands that, well, his position is you can't trust a thing. I agree with him, by the way. But I think Dan, what he wants is to entertain the topic because there's something there. There's something that's hidden, something that's about this realm that needs to be dealt with. Anyways, I think they did a halfway decent job. An awful lot of people end up losing friends over this topic, close friends. And the same thing happens in the Bigfoot community because no one can be honest about stuff. So very few people can be honest about it. And it's just like religion. It's a faith-based religion. The cult of Bigfoot, the cult of the alien or the UFOs. And we really don't know what the hell's going on. And that's the brutal truth.
That they can be so brazen, right? I mean, you and I see it. Most of us in this chat see it. But the reason they can be so brazen is because they've primed the public through TV shows and media and movies and newspapers and these manufactured quote unquote space alien narratives. I mean, it goes way back. Like one of the if I recall, and I could be wrong, but like one of the first movies to ever be put out, again, I could be wrong, but I think one of the first movies it was a movie to be put out was about how aliens, some sort of weird species, they weren't called aliens, but came from the moon and invaded humanity or something like that. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you go back to the 1950s again, like Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, but I'm talking like first film. Like, I don't know when the first film was, but I'm talking way back. Like something with the moon, something. I don't know.
Right now, there was a super chat you had there, Mark, about Travis Walton.
Oh yeah,
to comment about Travis. Yeah, to comment about Travis Walton, I definitely think he's genuine. He's reporting exactly what he experienced, and he's honest about it. But where did these beings come from? And it's same as Betty and Barney Hill. I think they were really telling people what they experienced. You have to wonder what the origin of their experience was.
The only I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Do these astral beings show up to also drive a narrative? Do they come, they used to come as, like you said, fae, goblins, etc. Do they now come as aliens?
And that's what Jack's Valet talks about.
Yeah, so Travis Walton, definitely, I think, a genuine experiencer. And then even that, I mean, here Hollywood, they can't get anything right. So they remember they made a movie based on his experience, and they didn't even do that right. They messed up the movie. Well, the movie made based on his event wasn't even correct. I mean, they could have just followed wasn't his story fascinating enough? Why would you want to alter it? Why? Just make a movie about what he experienced and try to make it as
close to accurate as possible.
I don't understand why Hollywood does that either. It's just like they give us these trash stories. Like you remember Gladiator, Russell Crowe, that movie.
Yeah.
They mismatched the emperors. They were hundreds of years apart, and nothing in the story was accurate. Nothing.
Yeah, that's what's going on with the Assassin's Creed franchise right now. It's really pathetic. There's a lot of movies that I'm trying to find one now. But I mean, like on a side note with Walton, like I think there might be something to his story. Walton is different than someone like Whitley Strieber. All right, I'm probably gonna piss. See, like when you talk about stuff like this, it's like people look at certain individuals as like UFO or knowledge gods. Well, Whitley Strieber is a huckster. Okay, period, point blank. Okay, his story in the beginning it may be accurate. I'm not doubting in the beginning, but he has had so many evolutions, so many books, so many massive experiences to the point that it's mind-boggling, okay? And the chance of someone like him or anybody having the, like, all these type... I'm sorry, he just makes up shit, all right? So that's the difference, right? And you can see the progression. Kind of like there's an NDE, there's multiple NDEers out there. Not a lot, but there's multiple NDEers out there who pull the same bullshit, where they likely, or more than likely, had a very real experience. And I'm saying that Whitley Strieber probably did have something like that, and a number of these NDEers, which is only, about a handful, right? But they had these experiences, and then, all of a sudden, like, as they move along, they need money, right? They need to juice things up, and all of a sudden, they're having, instant downloads and all this information and just spouting out all this stuff that they've experienced, all this information that humanity needs to know. But the only way to get it is to pay $14.99 and buy the audiobook and buy this and buy that. And then, by the time you're getting through it, it's like volume 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or 14. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Whitley Strieber seems, like a good guy. But I don't believe that he's experienced everything that he's experienced. And, I'm sure, some people be like, oh, well, I'm a Whitley supporter and stuff like that. Well, you know what? Like, just look at his track record and everything that he's put out. I'm sorry. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't make sense. And I think he's, pulling the chain of the public. That's it. And there are NDEers out there like that. So make of it what you will, but I'm just going to say it. Yes, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, I'm so sick of, like, protecting these assholes. I really am. I'm just sick of it, damn. Like, there's so many out there. Like, not so many. Like, it's just like a small percentage. But, like, they get brought up into this, like, deity status. Like, and they just, like, at some point, like, how much are you going to believe? Like, when does, like, your red flag radar go off and say, oh, well, this guy's coming at me every year, every other year, or this woman, this girl, is coming at me every other year, presenting me with new information. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it flies in the face of the information that is consistent. Like, someone, like a true NDEer, like, for instance, like, some of them may write a couple books. They might write a couple. Or they may update blog posts. And there are a number of NDEers out there and experiencers in general out there who will say, hey, well, I I had my NDE experience, and they'll write a book. Or I had my NDE experience, I'll write a book, and I'll do a few interviews, and, it's out there. And then they'll go away. And then you have some who will have blog posts and updates, and a lot of them do say, so I don't take this away from everybody. But a lot of them will say, I started to get further clarity or more information about what happened during my experience. During my experience. That's the key word. So they get further clarity about what they went through. And some of them, they have communications and yada, yada, yada afterwards. But it's not to the point of it being high octane racing fuel where you can put out a book every year or something like that and have 12, 13, 14, 15 different topics. I'm sorry. I feel I don't when my radar goes off, it goes off. I'm going to shut my mouth. That's it.
Well, to me, it's just I just examine it like an investigator. If I was listening to somebody give me testimony or statement about something.
Okay, but let me just interject.
All right, it's going to get heated. Yeah, as usual. These topics, my God, people are just take it to themselves and the whole situation maybe a little too serious. But anyways, Dr. Turner, I did a reading of her book they mentioned earlier, and it's called Taken, and she got to start all the books. And I do think that she's worth reading because it'll give you a clearer understanding of abductions and all the different ways it goes about it, from paranormal events to people actually really claiming they have them to being all different types of entities in these ships and everything. It's not just Bigfoot or aliens. There's all sorts of things. It's crazy. Betty and Barney Hill, a lot of people think that was a fraud. I'm surprised that Dan thinks it's real. Travis Walton, I don't know much about him. Maybe there's a little more to him. As far as Whitley Strieber, I don't like him either. I started reading Communion, and honestly, it sucked. I was going to record it, and not that I'm any good at reading out loud, but just going to record just as documentation of my research. And I'm just like, I don't know about this. And Whitley knows everybody. Everybody. It's so suspect. I don't trust that dude. It's difficult. So I don't blame Mark pushing back on Dan here with this kind of stuff. But at the same token, it also says a reflection of this topic, these topics, those who actually have experiences. And then we see people exploiting the situation, making up stuff, making claims that can't substantiate at all. Or at least not even saying, well, listen, I say, I had my experiences and I can't substantiate. I know I had them though, and they don't add up to what everyone else is saying. And you don't have to believe me, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because I need to. But it's like there's nobody rushing to talk to me. Anyways, let's go to the next part.
That's fair enough. I'm with you 100%. But when you have someone who knows the data, someone who knows the information, someone who has been around long enough and has had the opportunity to take that information and mold a story of their own to make it seem real, that has to come into your kind of world, right? And say, there has to be some suspicion there.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, Whitley Strieber has been around forever,
Yeah. There's a little bit of a Mandela effect with him for me. I honestly believe that he had passed away years ago. And and then one day I found out he's still around. Like, I thought he died. I could have sworn that. I don't know. It was the Mandela effect thing. Anyway, now.
Well, his wife died, right?
Oh, maybe that was it. It could have been confusing.
Yeah, because he wrote a book on it and talked about it. So I'm just, his wife talked about it.
He's got, yes, no, I understand where you're coming from. One of the reasons that I can say, through my experience as an investigator, is that Travis Walton is a genuine experiencer. His story hasn't expanded in the years. It's been very consistent. He is quite frustrated, actually. He doesn't want to repeat it anymore. He got involved with that. They wanted to make a movie about his story, and they screwed it all up. So, I mean, he's one of the cases that I look at, a genuine case. He seems like a genuine person. He's not. In fact, it came out in the newest documentary made about his case that they tried to bribe his friends that witnessed his abduction into changing their story.
Yeah, you're talking about Travis, right?
Yeah, they tried to bribe his coworkers that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And they refused to take the money. And he's never been like the Strieber type with the mega bucks. Or you can have another case, is a near-death case, for example, Anita Morajani. Now, here's a woman who was dying of cancer. Many medical studies have been done about her case. She was heavily medically documented because, she was treated for her supposedly fatal cancer by several top doctors from different medical centers. And then she's on her deathbed, she's dying, and then she has this super NDE. And when she gets put back into her body, nobody can believe that she came back to life. And then she tells people calmly, like, hey, I'll be okay. And they think that she's going to pass on any minute now. And instead she makes a complete recovery. Her body had been riddled with cancer. It was medically documented. She only wrote one book about it. She's given some interviews, but her story is absolutely fascinating. To me, it demonstrates the whole process where this whole system here is geared to make you believe that it's this whole human experience is for our benefit, and when you take these people come back with a belief system, it's all about love, it's all about learning. But when you're listening to what they're saying, it's obvious that they have been manipulated. It's like a cult mindset. Many NDErs come back with this cult mindset of it's love and learning and light, and then when you're picking apart what they're actually saying, it's the exact opposite. Has nothing to do with learning. Exactly. There's very little love involved here. I don't know how do people define love, but sending somebody back here is not something that somebody that's loving would do.
Especially like if you like I was going through an NDE the other day of someone who drowned, and it's like she was sent back, and as she's sent back, it's like, oh, you made a good decision or something like that. And as she made a good decision, she ends up in her body submerged in water and choking on water.
Of course.
What a great decision, right?
Fantastic decision. It's like,
it's just like, are you kidding me?
It is. It's only because, hey, look, human being, the human condition is one of mental chaos and confusion. You have to really, really kind of be like your own hacker and overcome the mental filters and cognitive dissonance and backfire effect and all the other nonsense that you have to process out of yourself in order to even come close to understanding the truth about something.
Mm-hmm.
But the UFO phenomena, look, I don't know what it is. I don't have any answers for people on that one.
Well, I think to direct people, especially like with the abduction phenomenon, they can find, and if someone listening perhaps experienced that, there is some consistency, pretty good consistency with what we talked about earlier in the stream, and that's the fae, the goblins, the jinn, they're energy vampires.
Sure seems that way.
So, I mean, it just kind of falls right in. The Greys do that. Like, so many people who have abduction with the Greys, like, they say they're emotionless. They don't have any feelings, or they don't care what happens to you, but they're going through something traumatic, whatever that trauma may be. And I'm not even going to expand on that, but most people know that. And it seems like one of the control systems, and perhaps it's to keep certain individuals who are more spiritually inclined and catch them early in life or at a specific time in their life, so that they don't keep questioning. I know that's like way out there. Like, there's nothing to prove that, but perhaps
there's evidence. I think there's evidence to support some of that, because there are cases where a UFO abductee invokes some kind of religious terminology, and then the supposed aliens in one case, they recoiled, they fled away, used the name of Jesus, and they ran away.
Right.
And then, but you have then other cases, and this is where cognitive dissonance comes, because there's a couple of researchers I remember coming across where they were just full-blown like evangelicals, and so we have, they use these selective cases to back up their belief system.
Oh, the NDE thing is the same way.
Yeah,
like Randy, what's his name? Randy, can't think of his name. He's the same way. There's so many channels out there that they just love to throw the religious bias at you for NDEs, and it's like, oh well, so someone runs across NDEs and they see a cross as the avatar, or they, if you scroll through, this is really important for anyone who's listening. There are these channels out there. Randy K was the one I'm specifically thinking about, but he's not alone. There's many out there. Like, and if you scroll through, and go through their video list, they will show consistently God, Jesus.
All right, God and Jesus. I used to do that too, and I admit that. I just trying to make my amends on that, because I was totally convinced in 2017 when I had that weird experience, because I was talking and interacting with Christians too at the same time, so I was getting bad advice and listening to them. But I didn't know where else to go. There was no one else. I didn't know where to go. And so there was no shaman. There was no experiencers when it came to Bigfoot and all this stuff. And so, I convinced myself that it was the name of Jesus that drove them away. But it wasn't. Because they kept on going, and they kept on going until that night, at 3 a.m, I got so sick of the crap that I got up and rose up and started F-bombing them, screaming at them. And then they freaked out and left. I think that's what really happened. And then, but it's like there's numerous cases now that I discovered where people, when it comes to aliens or Bigfoot or other things, entities, poltergeist activity, or calling upon the name of Jesus, they just laugh at you. It almost seems like they encourage them to do it more. And I think that a lot of times getting wrapped up in that and calling upon this egregore, this spirit called Jesus, causes more problems than good. I mean, that's the overwhelming evidence. So you might disagree with me, and that's fair enough, but the evidence is on my side. So not a personal experience. And these things are like energy vampires. I found very interesting. So that they say, yeah, they're like indifferent to your suffering and your pain. Those that are abducted, right? And it seems to be the case for certain people, but not all people. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag. And I think that's how this near-death experiences, they're always saying the same thing too, right? You know, just very similar stories. And this whole thing of intermingling the religion, it seems like the rational thing to do at the time, right? But it really is cognitive dissonance and one's own biases they're injecting into it. Did it really, did they really see a Jesus on the other side? Probably didn't. They saw a light show. And, if they really cared about the person, why send them back to the shithole? Oh, they got a special message, a special mission. But their messages are never special. And their missions are nothing more than selling books to clutter up the frickin', to just make more noise. That's what it comes down to. We're almost done here. Got another 7 and 8 minutes here.
Sinning, redemption, the Bible, like key words that are all specifically geared towards getting you to fall into their bias, which is to keep you sucked into religion. And
right.
They're out there.
Yes. And in the UFO community, there's these researchers that do that, but they conveniently, as I was doing my research, I came across this stuff. They conveniently ignore cases where somebody would invoke a religious, in the name of Jesus, I refute you or whatever, and then the aliens would laugh at them.
Yep.
So there are those cases. Now, so the alien phenomenon can be very inconsistent, and it doesn't fit the narrative that people want to shove it into. So the religious narrative falls apart as soon as you find a couple cases like that. Then you're like, well, how do you explain that? Because that's not possible under your religious belief system. This can't happen. So that means that
if you're being honest with yourself, though.
Yeah,
you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah, you got to be honest with yourself. Sure, absolutely. You gotta be aware of that. How all the trick. A lot of the mythology has the trickster. The trickster being like Loki in Viking mythology. And this trickster appears in a lot of mythologies from all over the world. But I have to tell you, the biggest trickster is yourself when you're investigating stuff. If you let yourself, do all these things in your head to keep some bullshit brainwashed belief system alive, because you've run into evidence that says, no, that can't be. This can't exist, and therefore your people are their own trickster. That's
well said. It's so true.
Yeah. So, So well, I don't know what else we can say about it. Else?
I mean, I know you gotta run, and we're almost at midnight, and you got early morning tomorrow. So I don't know if you want to wrap up and say anything else before we close things out, but I want to give you the opportunity, Dan. It's always great having you.
Well, I just appreciate and I hope you feel better, Mark.
Thank you.
I hope you feel better. So much positivity comes from our audience. We have a few select people out there that just want to, be negative, but they're very tiny minority. Generally, it's like it's nice to know that we can share these ideas, and there's people out there looking for these answers. And even though we're a small, tiny number, it's nice. I'm glad I can interact with you and everybody on your channel and my channel. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's great that we're able to multi-stream, multicast, and don't forget to check out Dan at his channel, and it's OverWatch Channel on YouTube altogether, and OverWatch Project on Odyssey. And I know you opened up a Rumble channel, but you can find all the information at Dan's website, overwatchproject.com, and find links to everything, and then links to a bunch of his research and his resources and all that stuff. So feel free to check that out. And it's always great to have you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you to everyone over on Dan's channel. It's really great that we can do this, and I'm glad the internet connection held up okay.
Oh yeah, and I did upload my first video to Rumble the other day, and nice. I haven't put the Rumble button on my website, but I will in a few days.
Nice, yeah. So pop that up so we can get your subscriber count up. And I think I did read the other day, by the way. This, I don't know if it's true. Initially, when I signed up, you needed 100 subscribers to stream, and then it went down, I think, to 50. But I saw not that long ago, like last week or something, that maybe you don't need anything. So you may be able to stream no problem, and then we can multi-stream to all these platforms together and cover more ground. And for those who are receptive or interested, that'll be an option. So
yeah, that's awesome. All right. Yes, thanks everybody. So are we wrapping it up then?
Yeah, wrapping it up here, and I appreciate you all, and I'm probably going to head over to the Truth in Gaming channel. I'm not sure what I'm going to play, but there will be a link up shortly. And
all right, well, it's time for that. So that's pretty much over. So he cut it short. I noticed that with Mark, because he didn't want to hear any more of the nonsense. Which there's a lot of nonsense when it comes to ufology. And there's it seems like no one knows what they're talking about. So, some do, but those do seem not to. They seem to get avoided, pushed to the side. You start looking into the high strangeness associated with it. You start realizing you're dealing with something more than just freaking aliens from another planet. But there might be something all around us that's just it's part of the Matrix. So, anyways, what's this going on here? I want to play some music to close out. So we'll play Cannabis. Check out that band, Cannabis. We played Diviner. That's an excellent band. So I introduced you to some new bands that most of you probably never heard of before. Maybe some of you have. I'm going to do some of that something Psychic Lemon. Do I want to do that? Where did that go? It's like Lemon by a band. Let's play this. The Fall of, was it Fallen New World Order or something like that, or Fall of the New World Order, whatever the name of the band. And this is Ashes and Echoes.
In the false haze where shadows creep, empty shelters echo. Steady stand silent monuments of rust, memories fading, swallowed by dust. In wastelands gray, before I bleed through broken dreams, I'm turning clays. Amidst deserted streets, we find our way. In this realm of ashes, where shadows hold sway. In this false haze where shadows creep, empty shelters echo. In dreams we sleep.
I screwed that up. New Fallen Empire. That's what it is. Make sure I got that right. Yeah, New Fallen Empire and their new album. Yeah, it's a new album, Wastelander. Damn good stuff. I now want to play some one of my new favorite bands. Well, it's still fun. Some Acid Mammoth. Acid Mammoth. Actually, if there'd be a good concert in my book, Acid Mammoth would be in it. And then New Fallen Empire, they would be in the concert. Diviner would be in the concert. Who else would be in the concert? Yeah. Scuba Model, they would be in the concert. That'd be bad enough. I mean, just if you had one of the bands. Two would be awesome. Four, yeah, be worth paying to see. Good stuff. Glad I found them. Anyways, that's it for the show. Yeah, what did we learn? We learned today that when it comes to ufology and what's going on in the sky and aliens and everything else, no one has a clue. Everyone has a different, seemingly designer experience is uniquely their own, and nothing is consistent as far as the messages, as usual. And it's just one more element, one more aspect of the soul trap matrix, this Loosh form that we live in. That tells us that we live in a place where fairness, honesty, at least on the other side, and the things around us, they don't seem to value too much. The truth. Isn't it interesting that we're desperate in need of the truth? All of us internally, it's just because we know that we don't have it. That's why we value it so much. We value it so much, and so elusive, and so hard to find. And everybody claims they have it until they truly challenge their cognitive dissonance, their biases, and then they realize they don't have it. Uncertainty. This place is all about uncertainty. That's not something to be despairing about, really. You just come to terms with the fact that's the way it is. Yeah, good luck in figuring out what it is, what you saw in the sky, what you might have saw in your room. Good luck. And you'll always go to someone else for the answer. But you soon realize they don't really have the answer. They just want you to buy their books. Donate money. Which I don't blame them. But you must understand that too. That that's what their motive is. That's the way it goes.